Hi guys, this is Lashot from Scarlet Moon Creations, and I'm going to talk about the first books I've read in the month of August. This is my mid-August reading wrap-up. Okay, so I meant to start something new this month, but it did not happen. Uh, or maybe it did, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you how many books in total I've read or that I will be talking about in this wrap up. With the fact that I read so many library books and they have due dates, I don't always get to keep them in time to do my wrap ups, even though I do 2 a month because I don't know how to shut up. I've been thinking that I don't need to wrap up a group of books all at once. I can do them one by one. My outfits will just change video to video. That means a little bit more editing, but not that much. And I hope to. It's just easier for me, honestly, if I have the physical book. If I got the physical book from the library in the first place, but if I still have it, it's easier for me with the wrap ups. So that's how things will go from now on. That might start in this video, or it might start in my full August wrap up video with the stats. Next recent reads. But let's get into the books that will be due at the library soon. The first book I completed in the month of August is The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 3 in Mistborn Era 2, and overall the 6th book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, and I have now completed that series. Oh boy, I have enjoyed Mistborn, both eras. Mistborn Era 2 has given me a whole different vibe than Mistborn Era 1, and that's fine. I enjoyed it just as much. But just to give some background, The Bands of Mourning is, like I said, book 3. Mistborn Era 2 is 300 years after Mistborn Era 1. This is kind of like a steampunk-ish Western series, where as opposed to Mistborn Era 1 being like this high fantasy series. The books are significantly shorter, and we're following, for the most part, Waxilium Ladrian, or Ladrian. I'm going to say Ladrian. And he was born a nobleman, but always felt uncomfortable. So when he reached a certain age, he ran away from home and his responsibilities out into the Wild West in this series called The Roughs. And he, as many do, had this idealized image of what life in the roughs in the West was like, but it wasn't. And he wound up becoming a lawman out there. Speed past like 20 years or something like that. And Wax's parents and his sister have been killed, and his uncle has driven their family seat into the hole monetarily, but there's still all of these people that work for them that are dependent on them doing better. So the uncle's dead too. Someone handling the estate, a lawyer or whatever, calls him back to the big city to do his responsibilities. And the Mistborn magic system is still here. We get to see it in more detail. We get to see or hear about what happened after the end of Hero of Ages, and it's all super interesting. There are guns in this. There are also like dirigibles, I think they're called, like those blimps that fly around in steampunk stories. Um, and yeah, so the cast of characters are lovable. I've said this in the last two books. I love Wayne, so yeah. I mentioned Wayne is my favorite new character and my new fictional crush in my mid-year freak out tag video. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I read the ebook that I got from the library, and this also counts as my first book for series Crackdown, the readathon during the month of August. So, the next book that I read was one that I had to put down back in May because it was a lot. Back in June, actually, I put it down. That is the fifth season, a book I've been dying to read, and it was on my my 2020 TBR. This is by N.K. Jemisin, a black author. This is a black dystopian series by a black author, and I am loving it. This is a Hugo Award winning novel, and the two other books in this trilogy, the Broken Earth trilogy, have also won Hugo Awards, and I believe my usual spiel in the beginning, but it is summertime in New York City. I live in the first floor. My fan is off because it's a little cool, but there are people outside. Someone's whistling right now. You'll hear like traffic passing, and occasionally people talking as they walk past. And I guess my super and his daughter are sitting out front too right now. So please just bear with us. I need the cool air. So I believe this is, let's just say it's a dystopian. I this reading this solidifies that I don't enjoy dystopians, like really true dystopians. This is not happy. There's like one part where there's a little bit of joy, but or a calm before the storm, literally. And I didn't love this, but I didn't hate it. I recognize for what it is. But what is this about? This is the book one in the Broken Earth trilogy, and that is apt because we're living in a world, the stillness, I think, where the earth pretty regularly breaks up. People are living in a society where they are prepared for the earth to once again rebel against them, for volcanoes to suddenly erupt, for earthquakes to happen, for tsunamis to be shut off, and their entire lives to be thrown into pieces, and for them to they live in a world where they are prepared, if they survive the earth's breaking, that they have the ability to run off and join another comm or community and survive until the next event happens. We mostly follow Esun, though this is written in 3 perspectives, but Esun is, I guess, the main character in this, and basically what happens is she comes home to find her son killed and her husband missing, as well as her daughter missing. And this is just before the 5th season happened. The 5th season is basically when some type of earthy event happens and destroys human life as it is. And like I said, these happen often. So after these traumatic events as soon sets off to find out what her husband did with her daughter, where they went, and she goes on a journey and we go with her. This is really good. It took me about 100 and 150 pages before I stopped feeling ignorant reading this. Before I clued into the fact that this, a lot of the terminology is very earth based, and that would seem obvious, but it's like people's names are after rocks and crystals, and so are a lot of locations, things that, you know, in everyday English we have certain words for. There's a different earthier type of version that I don't always clock to. So if you have some experience in like volcanoes and you know, other kinds of earth study things, this is not like green things, this is like rocks and mountains and, like I said, crystals and volcanoes and that kind of earth stuff, not like trees and plants earth stuff. Or even water earth stuff, though that's water. So yeah, and I just getting used to the world took a lot. I took a break because I had been really wanting to read this, but I got it in May, and I didn't get to it for a couple of weeks because I was reading other stuff. When I got to it, like I said, we're still in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, even now. But I live in New York City, and we were the epicenter for a long time. So I got this, and things were still bad. And we, as regular people, weren't really seeing the things were getting better here in the city. Like, in hindsight, we can look back and be like, okay, there were less sirens. It was starting to go down a little bit, but in the midst, you couldn't tell. And this story begins with, you know, a cataclysmic event, and people are breaking out mass because of the ash in the air. They can't breathe, and the advice that they have for each other, the things that they're told to do by the authorities, the stone lore, stuff like that, is things that we were being told by, you know, our health officials and our government and things like that. So there was that, and then we get, then like June happened here in the U.S. with the death of George Floyd, and Christopher, I forget his name, in Central Park, a white woman calling the police on him because he asked her to put a leash on her dog, which she's supposed to have one. Like, Breonna Taylor's death being brought back, and just the protest and everything, and watching how Black characters and people of color are treated so very similarly in this book. We got to even more traumatic parts of this book in the beginning, and I wasn't used to the world yet, and it was just too similar to what was currently going on in real life. I could not. I put it down. I know a lot of people were reading like dystopians and things with pandemics in them, and I just could not. I didn't know that's what this was going in, and it just so happened that this is when I got the book, and I just couldn't. I could not. So I sent it back. It was the ebook, and when I felt like I could mentally and emotionally handle it again, I requested the physical copy because our library's opened again, and I finished it, and I'm glad I did. There's a lot of trauma. I will say that thinking about it, I was like, this would be written so differently if this was not a black woman author. Like, there was just so much, I think, more relatable just because of the person who wrote it and their background. So I do want to finish this series. I'm glad I finally got to it. I didn't love it, but because there's not much joy, I realize like this is like the bone season in Mime Order. The reason I haven't read the third book because it's just so depressingly dystopian. I'm trying to think of the other series that's like this, where it's very realistic about dystopia, right? There, especially when there are these oppressed people and there's no like, that's what you have to do, and then everything will be better. It's not like a simple solution: kill that guy and then everyone won't be oppressed anymore. There's a systemic oppression on top of the dystopia, and it feels like there's no hope anywhere. And that is not stories that I enjoy. I like the whatever. I don't know why Miles wearing yelling about cottage cheese, but I gave this 3.5 stars because of trauma and what do you call it? Not loving dystopias, but I do want to finish the series because I am invested. So, the next book. Oh, so the next books I read are a bunch of short stories. So, like I said, I finished Mistborn Era 2 with the Bands of Mourning. That meant I can come back. That scared the crap out of me. I can come back to Brandon Sanderson's Arcanum Unbounded, the Cosmere Collection. The Mistborn series is part of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, where he has several books that are connected because they're in the same universe, essentially. And there are some things that connect them because of that. And so this contains a bunch of short stories set in the Cosmere in the various worlds. Earlier this year, I read 2 set in Cell, I think it is. Let me just the Elantris, yeah. The Cellish system, which is where Elantris is set, and now I read the Scadrian system, which is where Mistborn is set. Three stories I read were the 11th Metal, which is kind of like a prequel for Mistborn Era 1. We find out a little bit about how Kelsier learned how to be an Allomancer, like how he studied and practiced or whatever. And then the next short story I read was Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania. This is a fictional series based in Mistborn Era 2. Allomancer Jack is like the opposite of what Wax is. He's, kind of like, what is that character that Indiana Jones, basically. How Indiana Jones is to us in the real world, like, he's brash, and like that would never happen if someone who was actually an archaeologist or an adventurer. That's not how they would actually do things, because this is the real world. So Allomancer Jack is kind of like that, and we get like this snippet story I really enjoyed this. It was hilarious. I loved how it's edited and annotated by terrace, his faithful terrace steward, Handerwim, and Handerwim annotations make the story that much funnier. And then the big one that I read, again, still a novella, but very important, Mistborn Secret History. This is also about Kelsier. I can't say anything else because spoilers, but whew, it opened my eyes. The end of Banson More of Morning opened my eyes as well, but this opened them a little bit more, and I think this is at this point the biggest clues about the Cosmere and the connections between the various planets in the Cosmere and the various systems in that universe. So I read those all, and I I rated each of them individually. I'm not counting them towards my Goodreads book or towards my Goodreads total books read count yet. Once I finish Arcanum Unbounded, there's a couple more stories that I have to read once I've started and finished the books that are currently out of the Stormlight Archive, the last books that I have to read, currently published from the Cosmere. So that's, I think, like 3 or 4 more stories in here. Once I've read them all, then I count this as a book read. The last book I'll talk about right now. The next book I read was Attack on Titan, Volume 28 by Hajime Isayama. This is a manga series, and I'm trying to catch up to all of the published English translations that are out because season 4 of the anime is coming out later this year. So I want to get to at least volume 30, which is out published in English. Man, I gave this 5 stars because once again, this killed me. Alright, this is an adult manga series. Very adult. We're following the people of Paradise who are living in a kind of feudalistic lifestyle, and they live in these 3 walls. These walls are like 100 feet tall or something like that, and the walls exist to protect them and their king from the Titans. Titans are these giant human looking beings that eat regular people. And the story basically kicks off. We're following Aaron and his friends, their kids, and one day while they're going about their business, the Colossal Titan appears. And the Colossal Titan is called that because it's taller than the walls that they live in. And the Colossal Titan basically kicks a hole in the outermost wall of Paradise and lets in all of the regular sized Titans to come and destroy their town and eat people. Aaron and his friends happen to survive, though his family doesn't, and they all have the strong urge to join the Survey Corps, which is a part of the Paradise's military that kills Titans. They go out beyond the walls, they survey, try to figure out what motivates Titans, and they kill them to protect the citizens of of Paradise from Titans. So This is volume 28. There are about four chapters, I think, for each volume. I forget. Yeah. Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so there are 4 volumes, 4 chapters per volume, and so we're now on, I don't know why I didn't look, 114. That's what chapter I'm up to. So time has passed. Um, man, man, things are different. Um, we got some really harsh emotional stuff happening with Aaron, with the people of Marley, with Aaron and the Beast Titan, with Levi and the Beast Titan at the end. Like, welcome back, Captain Levi. Not that he's been gone, but he gets a whole action scene chapter. Honestly, I think it's the whole chapter basically to himself. And we learn more about Zeke. And I'm saying all of that without giving any context because spoilers, I already told you. But 5 stars, and oh my gosh, I read this for a series Crackdown as well. No particular prompt at this point. If all of my books fit prompts towards the end of the month, and then I will let you know. I think that's it for this video. If not, I'll be in a different outfit in a second. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new. Let me know what you read in the first half of the month of August. How's your reading going? I did not count the 5th season for series Crackdown because they said I started it. I'm already 100 pages in, so I can't count it. Alas. But after this, everything counts. I'll see you guys in the next video.